Well, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be here this evening. Thank you very much to Gavin and to Eileen for organising this initial sort of international support event and launch for the Whistler in the UK, which I think is a vital recognition and also support network for whistleblowers coming out of every aspect of society. A lot of the focus tonight has been on intelligence whistleblowers, but what happens to them and how they are treated and the risks they face and the loss of jobs and income and way of life affects every whistleblower that comes out of every sector. It is a disgusting treatment for people of integrity across any sector in society. So thank you very much for the support you provide to everyone. And it's also a real pleasure for me to have so many people over from the States, intelligence whistleblowers mainly, and diplomats and military, who are here to honour another very brave whistleblower who's paying a very heavy price for what she did a few years ago, which is Chelsea Manning. Of course, you'll all be aware Chelsea is currently languishing in prison for a sentence of 35 years for exposing murder and the crimes of the US intelligence agency and the US military. And we are here, Ray particularly as the founder of the Sam Adams Associates for Integrity and Intelligence. And we are awarding the Sam Adams Award to Chelsea this year for what she did. Mm-hmm. So this is why we're all gathered here. And it's fascinating hearing the American perspective tonight, because you mentioned, Tom, that you, as a country, broke away from the crown, the British crown, because you wanted to fight for your freedoms. And yet everything I'm hearing from all the American whistleblowers here this week is that the US has learned all too well the duplicity and the secrecy and the draconian cover-ups that the UK has refined over the last 100 years when it comes to their intelligence work. And yet, you're going one step beyond. You're supersizing the concept of persecuting the whistleblower. Only the Americans could do that. Now, just very briefly, I speak from experience. As Gavin mentioned, I used to be an intelligence officer for the British Domestic Security Service, MI5, and resigned in the mid-1990s with my former partner, David Shayler, who went on to become a very notorious, very famous, whichever word you want to pick, whistleblower in the late 1990s. Now, we were only there for 6 years, and we saw a whole catalogue of things going wrong, including files on our democratic political masters, the government ministers, illegal phone taps on journalists, innocent people put in prison, even though MI5 had information that they were innocent, they failed to disclose at trial, bombs that could and should have been prevented put on UK streets which exploded and innocent people died. And then MI5 could lie to cover this up. Culminating in MI6, the Foreign Intelligence Gathering Agency, funding an illegal assassination attempt against Colonel Gaddafi of Libya back in 1996. Now, this was illegal under UK law, and MI6 was funding what became Al-Qaeda in Libya, our known terrorist enemies even then, to try and assassinate a foreign head of state, and innocent people were killed in this process. So we felt moved to resign and blow the whistle, and this is in the analogue days, before the internet, before we could just go to WikiLeaks or any other wonderful organisation that could protect our proof. We had to go to the press, and we had to go on the run, preemptively, to avoid being thrown in prison and gagged for a few years. So we did Edward Snowden, actually. This was probably the only other people who actually preemptively went on the run around a whistleblowing case from the intelligence agencies. Now, for this, David paid a pretty high price. Not as bad as the whistleblowers are facing in the US now, but pretty high even so. We had to go on the run, literally around Europe, and we had to live in hiding for a year. And he went to prison not once, but twice. First of all, when the British state failed to extradite him from France to stand trial in 1998. And secondly, when he returned voluntarily in 2000 to face prosecution. And he went through 2 years of court cases and ended up being put in prison, sentenced, found guilty for a breach of the Official Secrets Act. So we know the price you have to pay. We also saw through this how the media can be manipulated and controlled to a certain extent by the intelligence agencies. And this is one thing that I find very distressing in every whistleblower case, is that they go to the journalists, they want to do something for the public good. They want to expose wrongdoing on the part of the secret state or on the part of their employers. And the journalists love this. They think, great, sexy whistleblower case. And they make their careers on the back of this. But all too often, they take the information, break the story, and then leave the whistleblower twisting in the wind. And this is something particularly that this new foundation, the Courage Foundation, hopes to rectify, to help the poor bloody whistleblowers. So the journalists can win the awards, the journalists can have a nice career. We want to provide help and a support network to the current existing whistleblowers, particularly coming out of the intelligence agencies, because they are automatically criminalised. But also to raise funds, to pay for the legal defences of people coming out of this sort of environment, because they will automatically be prosecuted for what they do. So that is what the Courage Foundation hopes to do as well. And it's lovely that all these different networks, the Government Accountability Project, the Whistler, other networks across Europe are beginning to combine and share experience and share knowledge to help protect people from coming out of all sorts of environments. Now, just to finish, I think I mentioned earlier, it's interesting looking at how the US particularly is learning some really nasty bad habits from the UK in terms of secrecy protection. And it's amazing that they've been using this old antiquated law from 1917, the 1917 Espionage Act, to persecute and wage a war on whistleblowers coming out of the intelligence agencies in the US. Now, the UK is one step ahead. We have the 1911 Official Secrets Act to do precisely that, to persecute traitors. And they get 14 years in prison, not 35, 14, but it's still bad enough. Then we had a series of whistleblowers in the 1980s in the UK. So they revised the law specifically to criminalise whistleblowing. And this is the 1989 Official Secrets Act. The difference is they took away any public interest defence you might have if you come out of central government, the intelligence agencies or the military, and blow the whistle on criminality. And they said, basically, if you are a serving or former officer and you speak to anyone outside your agency about anything, you will be prosecuted. This is the first law against whistleblowers, and all whistleblowers coming out of these backgrounds in the UK are specifically not protected by any other whistleblower legislation such as the Public Interest Disclosure Act of 1998. So it's a very vulnerable sector of whistleblowing society, should we call it. They are most likely the sort of people to actually witness the most heinous types of crimes, like fabricated intelligence to go into wars, illegal wars in the Middle East, like attacks against civilians, like murder, like the collateral murder video that Chelsea Manning revealed, and like the vast illegal global surveillance panopticon that Edward Snowden has revealed as well. He's just confirmed all our worst fears of what is going on. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg. So there is a crying need for whistleblowers, particularly coming out of these sectors. And there is a crying need for protection of those whistleblowers and recognition of the courage that they display, knowing what might happen to them. So this is why, with very great pleasure, I recognise the Government Accountability Project in America, the Whistler Project in the UK, and I hope that all of you will follow and support the Courage Foundation, because courage is coming from more and more of us. Thank you very much.